All right. Want to unlock those secrets to success and happiness? Bet you didn't think a teenager would be the one holding the key, huh?
Pretty cool, right?
We're diving deep into Growing Beyond the Syllabus, this self-help book. And get this, it's written by a teen, for teens.
Oh, I've heard of this. It's gotten some buzz.
Yeah, and it's full of advice that's surprisingly insightful, really makes you think.
I can imagine teens today have a whole different world to navigate. It's got to be refreshing to get that perspective, straight from the source.
Totally. And it's not just some fluffy stuff. We're talking practical advice here, like how to build that self-belief, deal with all that social pressure, even manage money.
Whoa, manage money, like investing and all that?
You got it. Like a mini Warren Buffett in the making.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, so where does this teen author even begin?
Well, he jumps right in with this concept that's like totally crucial for teens, but often gets overlooked, the power of perspective.
Right, everyone's got their own way of seeing things.
Exactly. And he illustrates this with, get this, identical twins. He knows these twins, practically the same age, same genes, same upbringing,
Wow, same everything.
yet their perspectives are totally different. One's a total science whiz, the other's all about business and money, one's super outgoing, the other's more, keeps to themselves.
That's wild. You'd think they'd be practically the same person.
Right. It really makes you question those assumptions we make about people.
Absolutely. We love to put people in boxes, don't we? But this author, he's reminding us that even those who seem similar can have totally different things going on inside. Different values, dreams, the whole shebang.
For sure. And get this, he tackles this whole conformity thing head on. That pressure to follow the crowd, even when your gut's telling you otherwise.
Oh, tell me about it. Peer pressure is no joke, especially for teenagers.
Right. And he uses this really cool example, the Ash conformity experiment. Have you heard of it?
It rings a bell, remind me.
Okay, so they brought in this group of people and showed them a bunch of lines, asking them to match the length of one line to another set of lines.
Sounds simple enough.
Right. But here's the catch. Most of the participants were actually in on the experiment.
Oh, I smell a prank. What'd they do?
They all gave the wrong answer on purpose.
No way. Did people go along with it?
Yep. A good chunk of the unsuspecting participants conformed to the group's wrong answer, even though, deep down they knew it was wrong.
Wow, talk about the power of peer pressure. It's like we'd rather be wrong with the group than right on our own.
Totally. And this pressure to fit in, it's amplified during those teenage years.
Oh, absolutely. Social media, trends, it's like this constant pressure cooker.
Exactly. So to combat this whole conformity thing, this author introduces this really cool concept. He calls it the third ray.
The third what?
Ray, it means third opinion in Hindi.
Ah, okay, got it.
Right.
Like getting a second opinion from someone totally outside the situation.
Exactly. He's basically saying, when you're wrestling with a tough choice, especially when you're feeling unsure or pressured, seek out a fresh perspective from someone wise and objective.
Someone who can see the bigger picture, untangled from all the drama.
Exactly. It's like instead of bouncing back and forth between two equally good or bad options, you get this outside voice to help you see things more clearly.
Love that. It's so easy to get stuck in our own heads.
Right. Now, let's talk about something else super important, belief. We hear believe in yourself all the time.
Oh yeah, it's like the go-to motivational phrase.
But this author, he breaks down the how. He uses this really cool analogy of a child as a sapling.
Okay, I like where this is going.
So a sapling, it needs the right stuff to grow into this strong, healthy tree.
Right, you can't just like stick it in the ground and hope for the best. It needs sunlight, water, good soil.
Exactly. And for us, that crucial ingredient is self-belief.
It's like the foundation for everything else, right?
Totally. And he connects this to the law of attraction, which basically says we attract what we focus on.
Now that can sound a little out there for some people.
Oh, I know, but hear me out. It's not just some mystical thing. He brings up this book called The Secret, which dives deep into this whole manifesting your desires thing through positive thinking.
Okay, so he's got some backup.
Right. And, it's not about just wishing for things to happen. It's about cultivating that inner belief and then taking action. Believing you can achieve something and then putting in the work.
Like you can believe you're going to ace that test, but you still got to study.
Exactly. So how do we cultivate this self-belief, especially when we're constantly bombarded with messages that make us doubt ourselves?
Right, because that's the real world, isn't it? Full of doubt and all that.
Well, this is where things get really interesting.
He says it starts with challenging those negative thoughts, that inner critic we all have.
Oh, yeah, that voice can be brutal.
He's all about questioning those limiting beliefs. Are they even true? Or just, like, echoes of doubts we've picked up along the way?
It's like fact-checking your own negativity. I like that.
Exactly. And speaking of negativity, he doesn't shy away from the tough stuff, like handling criticism and failure, especially crucial for teams, right?
Huge. I remember those days. Always worried about messing up.
He actually shares real stories from his readers about times they felt underestimated or faced setbacks, those moments that make you question everything.
It's one thing to get advice from some grown-up who's, like, already figured it out, but hearing it from peers who are going through the same stuff?
Totally different level of relatable.
Exactly. And one common thread, not surprisingly, was this fear of not being good enough, which can be totally paralyzing.
It's like that fear keeps us stuck, right?
For sure. But this author, he flips the script on failure, sees it as a stepping stone, a chance to learn and grow.
Got to embrace those setbacks. They're inevitable.
Exactly. And he even uses the example of ISRO, the Indian Space Research Organization. They faced a ton of criticism early on, setbacks too, but instead of giving up,
They used it as fuel.
yes,
Yeah.
they channeled that criticism to power their determination, which led to that amazing success with the Mongolian mission.
Talk about turning things around. Proof that criticism can be a powerful motivator.
Totally. And I love how he supports his advice with science, like that mind-blowing Emoto water experiment he talks about.
Oh, right. The one with the water crystals.
Yeah. They exposed water to different words, even music, and the results were wild. The water exposed to positive stuff, it formed these beautiful, intricate crystals.
While the water exposed to negativity just went haywire.
Exactly. It's like our thoughts and words have this energetic frequency that can impact the world around us. Pretty wild, huh?
Makes you think twice about that inner monologue.
No kidding. And speaking of positive vibes, he also stresses surrounding yourself with the right people.
Oh, the power of your circle, right, makes a huge difference.
Huge. He even compares negative people to, get this, parasites.
Okay, that might be a tad dramatic.
Right. But I get the point. It's like we wouldn't keep toxic stuff near our favorite plants, so why allow toxic people to drain our energy and hold us back?
Good point. Got to protect that positive energy.
Exactly. And speaking of positive energy, we got to talk about his chapter on attitude packed with wisdom.
All right, let's hear. I'm always up for an attitude adjustment.
He starts off with this really humbling reminder, we're not the main character in everyone else's story.
It's a good reminder, right? We can get so caught up in our own stuff, forget everyone else has their own life going on.
Totally. And get this, he shares this anecdote about meeting Amitabh Bachchan, the Bollywood legend.
Whoa, he met Amitabh Bachchan. Okay, now that's a story I need to hear.
So he was obviously starstruck, right? But he talks about how Bachchan's whole demeanor just put him at ease. He was genuinely interested, asked thoughtful questions, made him feel valued.
Even though they're from totally different worlds, I bet.
Exactly. And it really struck him like, this is what true greatness looks like.
It's not about fame or fortune, it's how you treat people, right?
Exactly. And it ties into the importance of first impressions, which he actually backs up with research.
Oh, there's research on this. I'm
Yeah.
intrigued.
Apparently, studies show those initial interactions can stick with people, even overshadowing information they learn later on.
Wow, so like if you botch that first impression, it's almost impossible to recover.
It can be tough.
Yep.
Our brains are wired to make those snap judgments, even with limited info.
Fascinating. Are survival instincts kicking in, friend or foe?
Right. So how do we nail that first impression?
Besides, not showing up in your PJs.
Well, the author emphasizes a few things, dressing right for the occasion, of course, but also that genuine smile, showing real interest in the other person.
A smile can go a long way, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, ready to switch gears. Let's talk finances with a teenager. What do you say?
Bring it on. I'm curious to see what financial wisdom this teen has to offer.
He doesn't sugarcoat it. Starts with a pretty blunt statement. Education is expensive.
No arguments there.
Right. He even throws in some real numbers about the cost of higher education, and let me tell you, they are eye-opening.
I bet. I'm still paying off student loans.
He emphasizes how crucial it is for teenagers to be financially literate. Like, not knowing the basics about budgeting or saving can really come back to bite you.
It's like we're thrown into the real world with no clue how to manage money.
Exactly. And then we wonder why we're living paycheck to paycheck or drowning in debt. This author, he's all about breaking that cycle. He's a huge fan of this thing called the 50-30-20 budget rule.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. It's a classic for a reason.
Right. Basically, you split your income into 3 buckets: needs, wants, and savings. 50% goes to needs, those non-negotiables like rent, bills, food.
Got it. The essentials.
Then 30% for want stuff that brings you joy but isn't essential.
Like that new video game you've been eyeing.
Exactly. And then the magic happens. A full 20% goes straight to savings and investments.
Can't forget about the future.
Which brings us to the wonders of compound interest, what this author calls financial sorcery.
And for good reason. It's like watching your money make more money even while you sleep.
Right. He uses that story of the wheat and the chessboard to illustrate just how powerful it is.
Ah, the one where it starts with a single grain of wheat and ends up being more wheat than exists.
Exactly. It shows how even small, consistent contributions can lead to huge growth over time.
The power of consistency. It applies to so many things in life, not just money.
Absolutely. And he actually gives practical advice, too. He's a big fan of those systematic investment plans, SIPs, where you invest a little bit regularly.
So instead of trying to time the market or make these risky moves, you're consistently investing, building that wealth slowly but surely.
Exactly. He even breaks down how even a small amount invested monthly from a young age can grow into something significant by retirement.
Yeah, that's motivating.
Right. And he quotes Warren Buffett himself. Someone's sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago.
Love that quote. Okay, so we've covered perspective, belief, attitude, even finances. Ready to tackle time management with a teenager.
Bring it on. I feel like I could use some time management tips myself, especially from someone who seems to have endless energy. So time management, always a hot topic. And our teen author, he's got us covered. He kicks things off with this thing called the Pomodoro technique.
Pomodoro, like the tomato.
Exactly. Well, it's named after those kitchen timers. The ones shaped like tomatoes.
Oh, right. I've seen those.
So it's all about working in focused bursts instead of trying to grind for hours straight.
Because that rarely works.
Right. So you set a timer for 25 minutes, pure focus on your task, then a 5-minute break. Repeat that 4 times.
And then a longer break.
Exactly. Like 15, 20 minutes. It's like interval training, but for your brain.
I like that. Short bursts of intense work, then a little recovery. Makes sense.
And he recommends using a physical timer, like that tomato one. Says there's something about that ticking sound.
It's like that external pressure keeps you on track.
For sure. And then he throws in another gem, the Eisenhower matrix. Heard of this one?
Vaguely. Reminds me of something you'd see in a business meeting.
Basically, you divide your tasks into 4 categories based on urgency and importance.
So like to-do lists, but strategic.
Exactly. First, you've got those urgent and important tasks, deadlines, crises, can't put them off stuff.
Gotta tackle those head on.
Then there's important but not urgent, things that contribute to your long-term goals, but no immediate deadline pressure.
Right, like planning, learning new skills, that kind of stuff. Easy to put off, though.
Totally. And then things get interesting. Urgent but not important, think distractions, interruptions, other people's demands.
Ah, yes, those sneaky time wasters.
And lastly, those neither urgent nor important tasks.
Time to be ruthless, right? Cut those out completely.
Exactly. Now, before we move on, gotta ask, what about screen time? How does a teenager who's like always on their phone manage that?
Right, gotta address the elephant in the room.
Well, he's honest, admits he struggles with it too, the social media vortex, comparing himself to others. But he realized he had to take control.
Easier said than done.
For sure. But he talks about setting boundaries, having screen-free zones, and replacing that mindless scrolling with stuff that brings real joy.
It's about being mindful, right? Using technology intentionally, not letting it use you.
Exactly. Okay, one more chapter I want to touch on. It's about navigating those in-between years, that transition from childhood to adulthood.
Oh, that can be such a confusing time.
Totally. He talks about all the pressure, the comparisons, feeling pulled in every direction, even admits to feeling lost and uncertain.
Totally relatable. Like,
Yeah.
who am I? What am I doing? We've all been there.
Right. He talks about that constant question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, there's only one right answer.
So much pressure to have it all figured out.
Right. But he realizes it's okay not to have all the answers, that uncertainty is part of the process.
It's a journey, right? Not a destination.
Exactly. And he encourages teens to embrace that self-discovery, try new things, don't be afraid to fail, surround yourself with supportive people.
Solid advice for anyone, really.
Totally. And he ends with a powerful message. You are not alone. Everyone goes through similar stuff. Asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness.
Love that. So important to remember, especially during those tough times.
Absolutely. So there you have it, folks. A deep dive into a teenager's guide to life beyond the syllabus. From perspective to compound interest, time management to navigating those teenage years, this book is full of insights.
And it proves wisdom can come from anywhere, even a teenager.
Totally. Well, deep divers, that wraps up our exploration of growing beyond the syllabus. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and feel inspired to keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.